Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic, and this is what happened at the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam 2023. The show starts with Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Logan is a nasty man at the start, shining Ricochet's head, so Ricochet slaps him in return. Logan takes control because he's a real wrestler, damn it, and actually dominates a lot of the opening portions of this match. He even hits a neck breaker on the apron and then gives a little kiss to his fiancée in the front row. Aww. Logan then hits a running power slam. Is it a mind game? Getting in Ricochet's head with the signature move of his tag team partner and best friend, Braun Strowman. Logan then turns into Hogan Paul with a big boot and kind of a leg drop, and then Ricochet turns into Ricochet, you guys, with a people's elbow, but he does a standing moonsault instead of the elbow at the end. Sorry about those puns there, sorry. Then they do a Spanish fly off the apron to the floor. I think they're both meant to land on their feet, but they kind of don't. But they still have this like epic stare down and brawl afterwards, which doesn't work as well in hindsight after the little slip. Logan then hits like a buckshot lariat to the floor, and then a child in the front row hands him a bottle of Prime and he like drinks from it, and I'm like, don't help him, kid, he's the heel. Ricochet then hits an avalanche neck breaker off the top, very unique indeed, and then impressively catches a Logan moonsault attempt, but it gets countered into a tornado DDT. Logan gets a near fall off an impressive springboard frog splash, but then Ricochet gets back in control of the match. He hits a couple of Benadryllers, he's really trying to get the crowd on side now, heads up top, goes for the big 630, but Logan moves out of the way. Then we get the finish of the match, and at the time of recording, I still don't know who this was. I think commentary just said a member of Logan's entourage, but some guy just like creeps down to ringside, slips a pair of brass knuckles on Logan's hand, excuse me, and then Logan decks Ricochet, 1, 2, 3, Logan Paul wins the match. And it's not fair, and he even taunts Samantha, the ring announcer, obviously Ricochet's fiancée, saying, oh, say it one more time, Samantha, say my name, and it's like, Logan, you're a nasty man. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Their blow-off match, but it's just a normal singles match, there's no stipulation. Cody attacks Brock at the bell, but immediately takes a big high-angled suplex. Ooh, ow. Cody's fired up though, he fights back with multiple disaster kicks and a big dive. However, crucially, Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar, so he gets back in control really fast with multiple suplexes. He almost wins by countout a couple of times, but Cody just keeps getting back in the ring, keeps on fighting. So Brock hits his finisher. He hits the F5 on the outside, and Cody again beats the count. He now takes it to Brock, who just sends him back to the floor. Another F5, this time through the announce table, but again, Cody just beats the count in time. They fight on the outside. Cody rams Brock's arm into the ring post a couple of times, then uses the ring steps and hits him with them, even though it's just a normal singles match, and the ref just kind of tells him off a bit. And the match continues, no DQ. Back in the ring, Cody has built up a head of steam with that vicious steps assault. He hits the disaster kick, the Cody cutter, then a second, even bigger Cody cutter, which Lesnar jumps to bump off. It's really, Lesnar's like invested in making Cody look good here, which is fair enough. He does kick out at 2 though. It doesn't end the match is what I'm saying. Cody goes for the crossroads, but Lesnar reverses it into a Kimura, but Cody struggles and bravely makes the ropes. Brock goes for another F5. Cody slips out of that and gets the Kimura on Brock, but Brock scoops him up like a small child and slams his way out of it. Cody slips out of an F5 again and hits not 1, not 2, but 3 crossroads for the win. 1, 2, 3. He pins Brock clean, sort of clean if you don't count the steps thing from earlier on, and yeah, he wins the match. That finishing sequence was dramatic, but made a bit unintentionally comedic by the fact that Brock had split his shorts wide open at some point in the match. They have a tense standoff in the ring afterwards, but then, surprisingly, Brock actually hugs Cody, congratulates him, and raises his hand. They are, clearly WWE are interested in putting over Cody huge here, while also turning Brock babyface too, which is interesting. We'll have to see what happens next for both guys. Next up, it's the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Oh, who's gonna win? The answer is not Becky or Trish or Raquel or Rhea, who, you know, reportedly had their matches chucked off the card, possibly to make room for this one. I don't know if that's for certain, but it seems... Let's carry on. Everyone is in the ring and ready to begin, but MVP interrupts and brings out the man he says is gonna win, Omos. The match begins and Omos just starts eliminating fools, including Rick Boogs, who may be rocking kind of a Bret Hart tribute pink, or like Hart Foundation at least, pink singlet. It doesn't save him from being thrown out though. Everyone teams up to try and eliminate Omos, but he fights them all off. Then we get a nice continuation of the feud between Imperium and Alpha Academy, with Imperium eliminating Otis, but then Gable manages to eliminate Vinci in revenge. Another feud continuing from TV is Tommaso Ciampa and Shinsuke Nakamura. They do battle with Ciampa eliminating Shinsuke Nakamura, but then Ciampa gets eliminated by Bronson Reed, who's kind of the third wheel of their feud. Austin Theory gets eliminated by the #1 contender to his US title, Santos Escobar, who is then thrown out by Karrion Kross. Back to Omos, who gets rid of Butch and Riddle at the same time, but then LA Knight takes it to Omos, which really wakes up the crowd for a bit, but then Omos boots him down. However, this leads to an opening where everybody left in the match pretty much hits Omos with strikes, including a brogue kick and a phenomenal forearm. Then they all club together and throw him out of the ring. Hooray! Miz and Grayson Waller then become kind of unintentional allies, hitting both of their finishers simultaneously and then looking at each other like, did we just become best friends? Miz then thinks he's eliminated LA Knight, but LA Knight manages to skin the cat and chuck the Miz out, and on the outside, the Miz is raging. It all comes down to a final four of Bronson Reed, AJ Styles, Sheamus, and LA Knight, who manages to leave a read out, or lever, if you're from America, read out over the top rope to the floor. It's a final three. That quickly becomes a final two as Karrion Kross grabs AJ's leg from the outside, allowing Sheamus to brogue kick him down to the floor. And so it all comes down to LA Knight and Sheamus. They go back and forth for a bit. Sheamus heads up top. Knight bounds up to meet him like Shelton Benjamin, hits a big superplex and clotheslines him out to win the Slim Jim Battle Royal. And if he hadn't, the crowd may have rioted. But thankfully, LA Knight is the winner. Next up, it's the MMA Rules grudge match between Ronda, sound like a ring announcer there, between Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. The ref gets in between the two to start and says, look, right, it's MMA rules, knockout or submission only, touch gloves if you want. Ronda goes for the glove touch. Shayna says no and walks to her corner. This match has a lot of grappling and takedowns. Shayna gets out of an armbar attempt, so Ronda then gets out of the clutch, and it's all very even Stevens. They then start a bit of a strike exchange, which honestly looks like light sparring. This is a difficult kind of match to pull off convincingly, isn't it? It's not the stylized world of pro wrestling. It's meant to look realistic, and that's hard to do. Anyway, Shayna hits a head kick, which does look quite convincing actually, and Ronda spills to the outside, but bravely gets back in. Ronda then gets a step-up knee strike, which looks pretty stiff. I mean, it's totally unrealistic, but it looks stiff, and then the ref has to check on Shayna. Ronda then presses the advantage, and Shayna's really weakened, but she manages to send Ronda and herself spilling out of the ring. By the way, the crowd are quite silent for this one. They get back into the ring and Shayna's in a bad way. Officials come out to check on her and she looks pretty ready to quit, but Ronda throws the men away and says, no, it's not ending like this, we're carrying on. Shayna's fired up, she throws her mouth guard at Ronda and the exchange of strikes begins again. Shayna gets a German suplex and then the Kirifuda clutch. Ronda counters into an armbar, but Shayna counters into an ankle lock, but Ronda gets out of it and hits a sleeper hold, but Shayna gets out of that. They are so evenly matched, you guys. Shayna avoids another knee, I think it was. It was some sort of attempted move. She gets the Kirifuda clutch locked in once again, and this time she sits down with Ronda and leans back. Ronda fights and fights, but she can't get out, and eventually Ronda Rousey passes out, and Shayna Baszler wins the MMA fight. Honestly, I don't think this was a total success. The crowd really weren't that into it. But on the other hand, if you look at it as like Ronda Rousey giving Shayna a win over her in an MMA rules match, that's probably quite a pretty big rub in the world of Ronda Rousey, I suppose. So this, I think the intention here was to make Shayna look like a beast, and hopefully they capitalize on this momentum with Shayna Baszler, because honestly, she does deserve it. Next up, the Intercontinental Championship match between the champion Gunter and the challenger Drew McIntyre. Drew makes his entrance and has a nice moment with a fan in the front row on the ramp dressed as Randy Savage, and they both go, oh yeah, and Drew's just having fun, you guys. At least until the bell rings, and then it's all about stiff strikes and, oh, it's not a pleasant match for either man, but it is pleasant to watch. Two big men hitting each other very hard. It is captivating. Early on, Gunter drops Drew to the canvas with a huge chop, and he's very much on top. Then Drew fights his way back into the match, and they start exchanging lariats back and forth. Gunter hits a German suplex to Drew, who rolls through, powers up out of it, and lays out the champion with a massive final lariat. It doesn't end the match though, of course. The match rumbles on. A little bit later on, Drew sets up for the Claymore kick, but Gunter ducks beneath it. However, he then falls victim to a big powerbomb and the Future Shock DDT, but Drew only gets a 2 count. Gunter slides out of the ring while Drew sets up for another Claymore, so Drew instead hits his big dive over the top rope. Always impressive to see a man of Drew's size do that. Back in the ring though, Gunter takes control and heads up top for his big splash. He nails it, but it only gets 2. The two men then have a chop exchange. Why would you get into one of those with Gunter? But Drew actually wins, ducking one of the chops, hitting the ropes, and nailing the Claymore on the way back. But again, it only gets 2. They both head up top and start slapping each other in the face and chest up there. Slaps and chops, chops and slaps, until Gunter shoves Drew backwards onto the top rope. Ouchie, he went crotch first onto the top rope and fell down to the canvas. Gunter then nails a big splash, a big lariat, a big powerbomb, and a big pinfall attempt. 1, 2, 3, and he wins the match. Gunter is still the IC champion after a furious combination of big moves down the stretch, and a match that I think really picked up the longer it went on. Next up, it's the World Heavyweight Championship match with Seth Rollins defending against Finn Balor. But could Balor's Judgment Day stablemate Damian Priest be lurking in the shadows with his briefcase? We'll have to find out. Balor comes out with the word 7 painted on the shoulder that he injured against Seth at SummerSlam 7 years previously. Rollins comes out in the same entrance jacket that he wore for that match, saying, Finn, I didn't forget either, by the way, I remember too. But also, like, yes, it's the jacket you wore when you injured Finn, but also, Seth, you lost that match, so is this actually a bad omen? Balor attacks Seth during his pose before the bell. Seth comes back and they have a bit of a brawl while the ref tries to separate them. Finally, he does so, and the bell rings, and they just charge at each other, and they've done a good job of making this feel bad-tempered and personal. Momentum swings back and forth until Balor gets in control and hits the buckle bomb on the outside to the barricade on Seth, even in the same part of the barricade where he got injured 7 years ago, so it's a bit of revenge, and it looks very nasty as well. Back in the ring, Balor locks in an armbar, but Rollins gets out of it and hits a pair of buckle bombs, one in opposite corners, and then heads up top with a huge frog splash, but it only gets 2. Seth sets up for the stomp, but Balor rolls him into a standing double stomp, then heads up top, but Seth leaps up and cuts him off with the superplex, but then Balor rolls him up for 2, then they both get to their feet, kick exchange, and they're both down. It's very evenly matched and very exciting so far. Finn misses a coup de grace and Seth hits the pedigree, but Balor just kicks out in time, and then here comes Damian Priest, Mr. Money in the Bank. Everybody's distracted. Seth goes for the stomp, but Balor rolls him up for 2. Priest then hits Seth with a big right hand through the ropes. The ref doesn't see it. Seth staggers back into a pedigree from Finn, but it's only a near fall. The rest of the Judgment Day arrive and they distract the referee while Priest and Balor appear to be arguing over whether or not Priest should cash in, or they seem to be talking strategy. Finn's like, no, this is plan A, we're sticking with plan A, and it's not quite clear what's going on, but what is clear is that they're not quite agreeing with the plan. Seth takes advantage of this argument and hits the stomp, but it's a great false finish because Finn actually kicks out when the referee's attention is back on the action in the ring. Seth then fights off the Judgment Day on the outside, but as he gets back in the ring, Balor takes advantage, hitting a sling blade and a coup de grace from the top, but again, it's another very, very near fall. Balor shouts more instructions at Priest, who slides the briefcase into the ring, goes around the other side of the ringside area and distracts the referee, so Balor goes to grab the case, but Seth stomps him onto it head first. That's enough for the 3 count. Seth Rollins retains, and Priest has a face like thunder, and presumably so would Balor if he was conscious to realize what had happened. So yeah, it's a bit ambiguous so far, at least as I record this. Maybe more will come out soon, but it's a bit ambiguous what Finn's instructions were to Priest, what the plan was, whether Priest deviated from the plan, what was going on. Are they going to play it like Priest was tempted to cash in and Balor was like, no, it's all about helping me win this match? Or did he want Priest to cash in to make it a triple threat, but like basically a handicap match in Finn's favor? I don't know. It's a weird one, but there's various avenues they can go from here, and I like most of them that I can think of off the top of my head. Next up, the WWE Women's Championship match with Asuka defending against Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. All three get a chance to shine in the opening stages, but it's Charlotte, I think, who has the first real run of dominance with a crossbody off the top onto both, then exploded suplexes to both, and then they kind of wait in the corner while Charlotte gets the ref to do up the back of her gear, which came undone, which is a bit awkward, but then she hits a double natural selection and Charlotte Flair is on top in this one. Asuka takes control of the match next, but then Belair manages to hit a simultaneous double move like a, like one of those, like, oh, a neck breaker for you, but also simultaneously a DDT for you. I don't know if that was exactly the two moves she did, but you know the kind of spot I mean. Belair then tries a handspring moonsault onto both opponents, but both of them get their knees up. Asuka gets the Asuka lock locked in on Charlotte, but this time Belair's moonsault connects to break it up. Charlotte then goes for her big moonsault to the outside, but only Bianca gets hit. Asuka avoids it, sends Charlotte back into the ring and hits a leaping DDT, but it only gets 2. Later on, Charlotte does manage to hit her moonsault, this time inside the ring onto both women. Again, it only gets 2. Then she goes for a double figure 8, or would that be a figure 16? But they kick her away anyway. Bianca then gets backdropped all the way to the outside of the ring, hits her knee on the ring steps and sells that knee hard. She is out of the match. Officials come down, help her to the back, and it's down to Asuka and Charlotte. Charlotte gets a near fall with a spear and locks in the figure 8, but Bianca bravely fights off the medical staff helping her to the back. She drags herself back to the ring, doesn't just break it up normally, she heads all the way up top and nails a 450 splash onto Charlotte to stop the submission. After they've both recovered, Bianca and Charlotte then talk trash to each other. Bianca goes for the KOD, but her leg is bad. Obviously, she can't quite do it. Asuka then gets knocked off the apron. Charlotte locks in the figure 8 on Bianca, but then Asuka comes back in and mists Charlotte. Asuka goes to grab Bianca and gets rolled up by Bianca Belair. 1, 2, 3. Bianca Belair is the WWE Women's Champion, despite injuring her knee midway through the match. It's an inventive ending, and certainly I think that was the best portion of the match, the finishing stretch. It was all right. Like, there was moments where you could really see Charlotte talking to the other two, but I thought on the whole it was worth it to make Bianca... Wait! That's not all, because it's Iyo Sky's music. Iyo runs out with Bayley in tow. Bayley uses the Money in the Bank briefcase to take out Charlotte and Asuka. They get in the ring. Bayley grabs Bianca Belair and Iyo smashes her leg with the briefcase. Then she cashes in, heads up top, and hits the moonsault. And Iyo Sky is the new women's champion. Oh my, the division's just been shaken up. We'll have to see what developments occur later on. But yeah, this was a very exciting moment, and I think Iyo deserves to be champion. She's really good. And finally, the main event for the undisputed WWE Universal title and status as Tribal Chief. It's Roman Reigns defending against Jey Uso in tribal combat. It's a very slow start, as you'd expect, with Roman in control first, but then Jey manages to hit him with a big dive. The crowd want tables, and Jey obliges, getting one out from under the ring, but then Heyman distracts him by begging him to reconsider, and I'm like, Paul, it's the start of the match, calm down, like, he's just setting up a table. Also, how are you even at ringside? I guess none of the family are allowed, but surely that should apply to Heyman too, because he's a sneaky man. Well, it turns out, as we carry on, that the rules don't matter. A little bit later on, Jey goes for another dive, but now Roman has a kendo stick and lays waste to the challenger. Roman starts his trash talk, telling Jey to give up. He goes for a Superman punch, but now Jey has the kendo stick and gets some revenge. He also hits another big dive to the outside. This time, I don't think I've seen Jey do this before. It's a tope con hilo as well. There was a twist. Back in the ring, Jey goes for his splash, but Roman Superman punches him out of the air, but it only gets 2. Roman then looks for the spear, but Jey rolls him up for 2, then nails a huge super kick and the splash, but again, it's only a near fall. Jey hits Roman with a few chair shots while Heyman cries more and begs him to stop. He actually hasn't done anything that bad in storyline for it to warrant Heyman. I guess Heyman's a heel and he's trying to stop Jey's momentum, I suppose you could argue, but this is the former ECW man. He's seen worse than this on a standard weekday night. Anyway, Jey takes Roman up top, but Roman slips down and powerbombs Jey into a pile of chairs. Roman sets up a table in the corner. Jay goes to spear him through it, but Roman stops him and gets him on the apron. Jay teeters above the table on the outside, but he hangs on and then lifts Roman over the ropes, and Samoan drops him through it. That was a nice spot. Jay gets a strap from under the ring and whips Roman with it, very loudly indeed, which sends Roman fleeing into the crowd. Jay chases him, he grabs Roman, but here comes Solo Sikoa to attack Jay. Now, I thought they weren't going to do this because I thought the stipulation specified that no one was allowed to get involved. On the other hand, I thought then maybe they would do it and have Solo break these rules to engineer some sort of drama between him and Roman. Roman's like, no, you can't, this is tribal rules, you can't get involved. And Solo's like, I don't care, I'm a loose cannon. That's not what they did. Roman was totally cool with Solo helping him out. Anyway, Solo slams Jay through a table and they drag him back to the ring where they set Jay up for that spike and spear combination that they hit on TV recently. But Jay moves out the way and Roman accidentally spears Solo. Jay then spears Roman, but Roman kicks out just before 3. Jay presses the advantage, but a recovered Solo super kicks him. Then Solo and Roman have serious words, possibly about that accidental spear from before, I'm not certain, but it certainly seems very tense. They're not getting along. It's enough of a distraction, however, for Jay to fly in from out of nowhere and spear Roman through the barricade. Then Solo gets put on the announce table and splashed through that. Jay gets Roman back in the ring, hits the spear, hits the splash, 1, 2, and a goddamn mysterious figure pulls him out of the ring, and they unmask to reveal, oh, it's Jimmy Uso. Jimmy stares at Jay. Why would he do this? No, literally, why would he do this? I'm actually not certain at this stage of the story why Jimmy would go back to Roman. I hope we get a damn good reason, because it feels to me, and this is my own opinion, but it feels a little bit contrived by this point. Anyway, Roman spears Jay through a table in the corner and pins him. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns retains the title and is still the tribal chief. And as I say, this might be the first, in my opinion again, the first big misstep of this storyline. It didn't feel inspired. It felt like an excuse to elongate the story and, you know, let me know what you thought anyway. And in fact, let me know what you thought of all of the matches in that comment section down below. I've been Jack from Cultaholic Wrestling. Thank you to Owen and Luke on the edit for this one, and I'll see you very soon.